So what are we selling? Are we selling Messi or are we selling a soccer product? If the USL Championship really wants, or the USL as a whole, in my opinion, really wants to stick around and fight against MLS Next Pro and find its footing and really take it on, you have to find a way to start promotion relegation.
Between clean sheets.
I'm coming to you live from the side of the road. I'm in Denver now, but I had, honestly, the most interesting summer. I was about to say amazing. It was in a lot of ways, but it was a very interesting summer. And I spent the last little bit of my time in California down in San Diego, which is where I grew up. San Diego, of course, holds a special place in my heart for that reason, but it also has a very unique tie to soccer. That's because back in 2018, I came back as a political operative to live in the city and to canvass and manage the field program for a citywide ballot initiative. It was called Measure E, colloquially referred to as Soccer City. The attempt there was to bring a Major League Soccer team, among a whole bunch of other things, to San Diego. I tried and it failed. But I got to work with Landon Donovan, and a lot of the people that were part of Measure E ended up being a part of the San Diego Loyal. Seeing San Diego Loyal announced as a USL Championship team kind of felt like a consolation prize to me, but I loved their branding, and so many of the folks from Measure E, like I mentioned, were involved in the front office. Landon Donovan coached for them, and I felt like they did a really, really good job of fitting the needs of the community. That physical and cultural void that was left by the Chargers in the Mission Valley area, I don't think was ever really going to be filled by the San Diego Loyal, but it seemed like they could perfectly exist and fit the needs of the community at the time, and also coexist with the incoming NWSL team, the San Diego Wave. Andrew Vassiliadis, who you will be hearing from momentarily, was the executive face of the team, and I really didn't know, nor had I heard that much about him until a few years after the Loyal's inception, when in about May or June of 2023, it was announced that MLS was coming to San Diego. This was confirmed just 4 years after the Loyal was announced. And while this news is something that I had long hoped and worked for, it left the fate of the Loyal up in the air, although I'm pretty sure Andrew and or the front office and or the team had made a formal announcement shortly thereafter in reply saying, we're not going anywhere. I was happy to hear that, but from an outsider's perspective, I still knew that it was going to be an uphill battle for him and for the Loyal, but it wasn't something I was super concerned about at the time because SDFC wasn't coming until 2025. A few months later, I'm scrolling Twitter and I see a video of Andrew on my feed, direct to camera with eye contact, expressing the most emotional and raw statement about the fate of San Diego Loyal. And it brought me to tears. I had really grown to love San Diego Loyal from afar. I feel like they had done such a good job of ingratiating themselves and becoming such a big part of a small community. Not to say San Diego is a small community, but the soccer space. And it really stunk, because I can't remember if at that time San Diego FC had announced their name or their branding or whatever, but you could really tell the difference in authenticity, in just the genuineness, if that's a word, of the Loyal versus SDFC. And you could really, really tell that it was a decision Andrew did not want to have to make. But as I believe I said in the interview, it was honestly the best and most genuine way to express such bad news to the community. I really admire his bravery for, one, endeavoring to create a USL team to begin with, but two, being honest and open and direct with the fans and with community stakeholders. Now, cut to 2024, I'm hanging out in Los Angeles far longer than I anticipated, by the way. I just was really enjoying the summer breeze by the beach. And I'm scrolling Twitter again, and I see that Andrew is announcing this coffee table book, of which he made 619 copies. If you know the number 619 and San Diego, that's their area code, of course. And it was going to be free, just with the cost of shipping and handling. I, of course, am living with a scarcity mindset right now, so I am not scrolling as much as I used to. I'm not even watching soccer on TV as much as I used to. I am experiencing so much more of it in real life, IRL. But when it was stated the date and time that these books would be going up for grabs, up for sale, whatever, I missed it. And a friend of mine, Sean, with whom I worked on Measure E, asked me publicly, not even in DMs, if I had received one or signed up to get one. And I said no. It was on the same message thread that Andrew was on. So it was actually posted as replies to Andrew's original announcement that these would be available. And Andrew DM'd me and said, I have one for you if you want it. And I said, that's so great, but I would like a little bit more than that. I would love to have a conversation with you about San Diego Loyal. I would love to have a conversation with you about the book itself. Where can I meet you? When can we talk? I'm going to be in San Diego soon. And he was so gracious with his time, so gracious with his story, was such an interesting person to talk to and such a kind soul, and someone who I know is going to continue to be involved in soccer in some way in San Diego. I won't go through it now because I want to get to the interview, the conversation, but I really do cherish everything in this book from a faraway fan, and I really look forward to going through it for you and with you. It's so beautiful. It truly is. Every little detail. I mean, there are parts for the fans themselves. There are, oh my gosh, games with lineups. I can't even begin to describe to you how thoughtful and just amazing and honestly sad looking at it this makes me, because I really feel like I missed out on something great. And the only thing that I'll have to remember it by is this and the conversation with Andrew. I have the utmost respect for Andrew, and I'm so glad that I was able to have this conversation with him. And I'm even more glad that I'm able to share it with you guys. Please like and subscribe, share, ask questions. If this is the kind of conversation that you enjoy, getting a front office view of how things work in USL Championship, or how you go about making yourself an embedded part of a community, let me know, because I hope you can tell by the conversation that I really enjoyed having it. And these are the things that I want to continue talking about. I want to honor the Loyal legacy. And I really, really want us to be thoughtful in the way that we engage with soccer in our community. I have been a huge advocate of MLS. I still see it as a very big underdog in the space, globally, even nationally, just as a sport in the broader landscape. But USL really needs to be talked about. And people like Andrew Vassiliadis, I don't know if you heard that trash truck. People like Andrew Vassiliadis really, really deserve some time. And I really thank you for your support of me in my work to bring all of this stuff to light. Without further ado, my chat with Andrew.
Between clean sheets.
Andrew, thank you so much for hanging out with me at Sunset Cliffs.
Yeah.
You could not have recommended a more picturesque spot. We're just hoping that the breeze comes through the van here.
And you got a great spot.
Yeah.
Great view.
Oh, great. Tell me a little bit about yourself and growing up in San Diego and how you got into soccer.
Yeah. Born and raised here in San Diego. My father was an immigrant to this country. He was born in Greece. After World War II, he had a decision to make: stay in Greece and pursue professional soccer, or come to the United States and pursue his education. At that time, there wasn't money in soccer like there is now.
Right.
And so it was pursue the education. So he comes to San Diego State. My mom was helping foreign exchange students sign up for classes, and that's how they met. So when they had me, I was their first child. I grew up with a soccer ball, and that was all that was at my feet. I didn't play baseball, football, nothing. It was just soccer. And then you combo that with, we had at the time, and still, the best indoor soccer team, in the country, just winning championship after championship after championship. And a lot of those guys were immigrants as well. And my father got to know some of them, and he even flirted with purchasing the team for a little bit.
No way.
Yeah. He decided at the end of the day not to do it. But soccer was just always a part of our lives and something we were very, very passionate about. Unfortunately, Dad passes 2002. But I knew, people here love the sport. We're always at the top of the U.S. men's national team and women's national team viewership. We're always playing the sport, whether it's at the youth level or at the adult level. And those are two of your biggest markers of like, can a team survive in a market? And then you have the Chargers vacate San Diego. So now you're saying, okay, there's the Padres, and what else? And so I kind of started a conversation with a gentleman. He actually played for the San Diego Sockers.
No way.
Yeah, his name's George Catacletus, another Greek. He had actually come to me because I had mentioned some soccer projects to him, and he said, Andrew, I've got something. And it was the Tampa Bay Rowdies. They were up for sale. It was the team, stadium, and like a full block parking structure. And so we looked at it, we dove into it, but I was just starting to get serious with my now wife. And I just didn't have any desire to move to Tampa, and I couldn't see myself like doing it remotely. But that really, really got the juices flowing of like, oh man, let's find an opportunity here in town. So another project was kind of brought to me a little bit. It was 1904, the NISA team at the time, but they were still very up in the air about what their direction was and where they were headed. And there was a very minimal conversation. I said, this is the right fit. Let's keep looking. And then I woke up one morning and I read an article in Sports Illustrated about Landon and Warren Smith, who I knew nothing about, having the rights to a franchise here in San Diego. And I reached back out to George and I said, George, what happened? And he goes, check your inbox. I sent you an email yesterday telling you this article was going to come out and that I'm setting up a meeting with Warren. And at that time, I always thought I would be the piece of a puzzle to bring soccer to San Diego. I never thought that I would be the chairman and like the head of the whole entire organization.
Yeah.
So that was a whole nother undertaking of once we started to talk to Warren of like, oh, there's an opportunity to do this on my own, obviously with an investment group and stuff like that. And I jumped all over it. I saw an opportunity to work with Landon, somebody, I think he's maybe 6 months older than I am, like within a year of one another, grew up watching him and idolizing him. And I saw the passion that he had for San Diego and what we could do here. And it was just like, how could I not take this opportunity? And then once I understood who Warren was and his track record, in the USL and what he had done with Sacramento, and then I looked at the team of people, Ricardo, who you've met, that he had already had in place. I was like, we have to move here. And that's,
right.
What led to what became San Diego Loan.
So I have a couple questions related to your ascension from puzzle piece to almost like puzzle master. But this void that was created by, let me back up. In 2018, I actually met Landon Donovan working on the citywide ballot initiative, Soccer City. And the interest there was, of course, a huge economic redevelopment, which I know you mentioned that the Chargers left and Jack Murphy Stadium to Qualcomm Stadium to whatever it's been called in years past. It not only created like an economic void, but it created this huge sports void, as you mentioned. And with the citywide ballot initiative, the idea was to bring an MLS team at that point. And I know Landon obviously was hoping that it would be successful. I was brought on at the very last minute through the consulting firm that I worked on. And I know from an insider's perspective, but a very particular and unique perspective, why it didn't work and why it maybe was probably for the best that it didn't. But I would love to get your thoughts as a San Diego native and someone who is a huge player in the sports space here, and then also just in the entertainment space, because I know it had a huge entertainment component.
Yeah, and there was definitely a part of me that felt like, oh man, I missed out. Like I didn't know that group. Stone Family, I think, is who it was, and I thought, man, it'd be great to get involved with them, but it never really worked out. And so I started to pay attention, to the initiative and everything they were doing there. And unfortunately, then this is my view and perspective on it. What I saw was people who just wanted the land. They had Landon, which was a big piece of like, hey, we can sell MLS to people. But what I saw was, we don't really care about soccer. We'll do that. We really want this big piece of land so we can do other things. And so my view was, oh, this is a land grab. I didn't really see it as, oh, we're bringing an MLS team to San Diego. And that's why I voted against it. I was surprised. I thought I was in the minority.
Really?
Yeah, because I thought, myself included, I have one of my dear friends. They had generation of Charger tickets, right? His dad was a Charger. His grandfather went to. They did it together as a family, and that rug was pulled out from all of us. I was there at that last game. I had season tickets from the mid '90s all the way through, And so I thought people would just want that void for like, oh, we get to have a sports team. Like, yes, let's do it. So when I when I voted no, I remember walking out of there like, this is going to pass. We're going to have MLS. And so when it came out that it didn't, I was shocked. And I was like, I guess more people saw it the same way, maybe in a different light than I saw it, and they just didn't agree with what was being pitched.
I completely agree with your sentiment. I found it kind of wild that they had called it Soccer City to begin with, because when I got there, and of course the interest and excitement for me was on top of all of these things, making Mission Valley like a cool destination, kind of filling in the gaps left by the Chargers leaving. I thought it was really weird that they picked soccer and kind of tried to brand it as soccer,
right?
Almost soccer only. And it was so much more than that. Maybe not something that people would have liked if they had done more research, or if it had been branded a different way, they probably would have still said no. But when it failed, I was like, of course, because I mean, it's not everyone's gonna. If you don't care about soccer, then why are you going to? When the other option is San Diego State having the land and being able to do something with it,
right,
to expand the campus or whatever, giving it over to these guys with the idea that it would become a destination for soccer was just so, it felt random to me, and just a very small part of a much larger idea. So I think it was very confusing, personally. But watching all of that, did that play a factor in motivating you to bring soccer?
Yeah, once it didn't go through, you go, okay, there's a chance. And so we started working on what we could. The moment that I read that article, and then met Warren, was like, I think in the summer of 2019, and by October of 2019, we had agreed on how the business would operate. And then the league said, do you want to start in 2020 or 2021? And we were like, oh, we got to go now. Like, we got to start in 2020. And we all know how that went. So
you guys got one game under your belt, I think.
Two. One home game, one away game. And I think we will be a trivia question one day, because I think we were the last professional sports game to be played in the U.S. before the full shutdown. NBA had stopped. Major League Baseball had stopped. I remember the conversation that we were having at the USL of like, do we send our team? Do we not send our team? We said send them. We play that game. It was a late kickoff, 7:30 kickoff. And then the next day, like, that was that.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Yeah. Now, was the idea when you started working with Landon and Warren to eventually make the Loyal an MLS team?
Yeah, that's a tricky one for me, because yes, I mean, the answer is yes. If you were to ask me that while we're still operating a USL Championship club, I would have to say no, out of respect for the league and everything we were doing there. But if you look at how we operated and everything we were trying to do, we were trying to act as big as possible, right? The coach that I brought in, the people that we brought into the front office, the way our marketing team was structured, the content that we put out was all to show what we were capable of doing here in San Diego. And I think this is, if I look back at, and if somebody was to say, could you find a mistake? Like, what was something that you miscalculated on? It was the current state of the relationship between the USL Championship and Major League Soccer. Because when I started digging into the championship before we brought the team, one of the things I was looking at was other teams that had made that jump. Orlando made that jump. Cincinnati made that jump. And so I saw potential of like, and mind you, who's with Landon? Warren Smith, who at that time had gotten Sacramento into MLS, right? That deal was still done. Garber had gone out there and done like the whole presentation. It was coming to Sacramento. And so I'm like, oh, Landon and the guy who just brought a USL Championship club to MLS. It wasn't until I started getting into the USL Championship, executive meetings, and started to see the relationship sour, especially when MLS Next Pro came. And it was very clear, those types of jumps weren't going to be happening anymore. So yeah, but also we didn't know if that was ever going to happen, right? What we knew at the time when we launched the club was Sacramento's coming and MLS isn't considering another team till 2026. So it was make ourselves the best damn USL Championship club that we can. That was the goal. And by year 3, we were the number 1 watch team in the league, and we were making the playoffs every season. Did we win a playoff game? Unfortunately, no. But we were doing all the things we needed to do, in my opinion, to position us for any sort of move if it was possible.
Now, my next questions. When you were meeting with the league and obviously getting to know other USL chairmen, presidents, owners, etc., what team in championship impressed you the most with how they ran the organization and the way that they engaged with their community?
Yeah, I don't think it will be a surprise to you, the teams that I mentioned. It's Peter Trevisani in New Mexico. It was Brett Johnson when he was at Phoenix, and now he's doing his project out in Rhode Island. It's the gentleman up at Oakland. It's the I think it's Estes, or no, the people in Louisville. You know, those guys. Those San Antonio. Those were the guys that really, when they spoke, the room listened. Right. In any group or organization, there's going to be power struggles and different dynamics. What I found interesting when I got in there, and I realized very quickly, is there were different sets of goals. Right. Some people operate minor league baseball teams and they have this USL Championship club and they want to bring philosophies and principles from that and operate it that way. Some of us, like those teams I mentioned, wanted to push the championship farther in all kinds of different directions. And then there was a group that was just happy with the status quo. We don't need to spend more. We don't need to change anything. We like how it is. And so it was really those three groups kind of trying to change or guide the direction of where the championship is going.
Yeah. Now, your background is in the entertainment industry. What part of working in that field do you think made you most successful being involved in USL Championship?
Yeah, I've been asked that question before, and my answer used to be like, there's not really anything I can correlate, right, between the two. And as time went on, that really changed. Like, at the end of the day, we're putting on events and we're entertaining people. And so that, I think, was the biggest correlation. Was I knew how to touch people's emotions. How do we get people excited about what's coming? And I think that maybe was the carryover. Did my skills as a DJ ever come into play? Probably not. Probably not when I was making soccer decisions. But that, and then I've talked about this before, the influence that Disney has on my life, and just their ability to create magic moments for people. You hear about other businesses do similar things, like the Four Seasons empowers their employees with $100 in their pocket, make somebody's day happy, do something special for people. And that's what we tried to do. We empowered our employees. Like, my favorite thing to do was I'd get down on the field while the guys are warming up, and I'd find that kid whose eyes were just locked on. And you could see he's like drooling, like, oh, I just want to be down there, right? And you bring him down on the field. Did that cost me anything?
No.
$0. Change that kid's day for the rest of it.
Yeah.
And if I could really tell that they cared, bam, we're going to get a jersey. And that's on me. That cost me anything? Yeah, maybe a little bit on the jersey, but they're buying season tickets or they're coming back again. That was the one thing I never feared. I didn't realize how big of a knife fight we would have with people to get them through the door and fight the perspective of, no, this isn't minor league. Yes, it is Division II, but you need to look at that at a different perspective. But once they came through the turnstile, I had it. Whether they like soccer or not, what they fell in love with was the community and the atmosphere that we created. People would ask me, what's different about what you guys are doing than other people are doing? Some of it is a product, and I would say this, a product of longevity. We are a city of transplants, right? I'm born and raised here. I'm a Padres fan, born and raised. But there's a lot of people that were Cubs fans because their parents were Cubs fans from somewhere else, and now they live here. And so when you go to a Padre game, you see a mix of this and that and the other. There aren't the allegiances to USL Championship clubs in our community like that. You're like, sure, there's probably a couple people who are fans of Las Vegas or Orange County or whatever it may be. So what I would tell people is when you come to our match, it's uniquely San Diego, right? It's all loyal jersey. It's all of us pulling for our team. And that's what people experienced when they were there.
So San Diego FC, the MLS team that starts next year, how did you find out that team was coming? Was it a huge surprise, or was that kind of in the works, this other group that had pulled together for the expansion team?
Yeah, absolutely zero surprise. I knew from the minute that they started pursuing it that it was happening. Luckily, myself and enough people were tuned in to what's going around across the country. And the minute there was kind of rumblings, it was very quick and easy to suss out. And then most people right, will say, oh, wow, that happened so quickly. They made an announcement. It's like, no, I followed that for almost 2 years.
Really?
And watched it almost happen, not happen, almost happen, not happen, almost happen, not happen, happen. Like, like that was the trajectory of it. And so like there were times during our seasons where it was hard for me to, it felt this way at least, to connect what was going on here, because I knew something was happening back here, right? Something was possibly coming over the top of us.
I was just about to ask, did it keep you up at night?
Oh yeah, 100%. So at this point, my son's alive. He's a wonderful, wonderful child. The one thing he doesn't do very well is sleep.
Oh,
yeah.
Me and him both.
So I spent a lot of time in his dark room trying to get him to sleep with sound machines on and just my brain and my thoughts. And so there was definitely a lot of time. And I'm speaking of it in a negative way right now, but it actually became a positive thing for me because it allowed me to be present for the rest of the day and realize, like, Andrew, you're going to have an opportunity to spend some time thinking about this. Mm-hmm. And then I would do that in that moment and go, God, fall asleep. Come on, fall asleep.
Yeah. Oh man, being alone with my thoughts in here, especially I urban camp. So a lot of times I'm parking on the street and I always make the joke, I'm like crawling over my center console so fast because I don't want anyone to know I'm in here. But it means I have to be dead quiet at night. And so I'm just sitting there like, oh, geez Louise, every thought I've ever had is bubbling to the surface.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's been almost exactly a year since you posted, honestly, a very touching, emotional video announcing that the club would be in its final season. Mm-hmm. It made me super emotional. And I told you, I lived in San Diego, but only for a very short time.
Right.
What was the community response to that, and how did the rest of the season go?
Yeah, the response to the video was absolutely incredible. And I think, I've received a tremendous amount of love post the club going away, especially as STFC has kind of fumbled a few things along has fumbled a few things along the way.
You were leaning into the fumbling part.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry.
But what I think the reason I feel, at least I feel I get that love and that respect from people, is that I've always been authentic and honest with them, and I never tried to lie or hide anything from our people. Unfortunately, Rio Grande Valley, right? They folded a couple months after that. It came out in like an online statement in like a little paragraph, and that's when everybody found out. My coaching staff, Nate Miller, he was a project in Lansing, Michigan that was a part of the USL. I think it was League One or something. He found out like in the middle of the night, that he was losing his job along with everybody else. And I had heard that story before our club was in any danger. And I just made a mental note of like, I will never do that to my people. Like we always, and this comes from both Landon and I, we're both Pisces, March birthdays. The person or people are more important than anything else. Like we always said, specifically about players, but it extended to our entire staff. If we don't care and take care of the person, how do we expect them to be a good player or a good employee? We're not going to get the best of them there if they're not the best they can be as individuals. And that extended for me to everybody, to the fan base. Obviously, I have to keep some stuff close to the vest, right? I can't divulge all the information right away. But the minute that I knew decisions were made, I had to let people know. That started obviously first with staff and players and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I could not imagine an email going out or like something like that. And so when Travis, the head of our marketing team, was like, how do you want to do this? I said, I want to speak. I want to talk to the fan base. I don't want to put it out in a letter or anything like that. I've always spoke from my heart, and I'm not going to change that just because this hurts and it's scary, and for what it's worth, like that was just me speaking. I had my little notes. We did that in one take, and I was happy with how it turned out. And then there was that little hesitation and fear right before they said release of like, how will this be received? But I'm proud of how it was received,
Yeah.
And I think it helped. People were in shock. People were in pain. But when you hear the realities of it, like when I spoke to the players, I obviously shared more information because it was about their livelihood and all that kind of stuff. And when you paint the picture for people, they understand why you have to make the difficult decisions.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't, when you leave people in the dark, then they speculate. Then they go, why did you do that? Did he just not care? Like, you know, but when you're able to articulate why you have to do the things that we had to do, I had players come up to me after and go, Andrew, I totally understand.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know, thank you. Not just fucking leaving me out on the street.
Right.
You know, we had a player, one of our younger guys, Jackson Simba, day before I made the announcement. I'm not kidding you. The day before I made an announcement, he's just training like all the other guys, hard as hell, blow his whole entire knee. And then I go down the next day and say, you no longer have a job.
Yeah.
You know? But I knew that had happened. I said in front of all the guys, I'm not letting this kid go without taking care of him.
Mm-hmm.
We took care of Jackson through his entire surgery, and I paid him for a whole nother year's worth of salary so he could get on his feet in this calendar year to try to get on another roster the following year. I didn't have to do that, but I had to take care of the people. That's what I've always said, you know, and that then went a long way for all the other players to realize, like, oh no, he gives a shit about us. This isn't because he doesn't want to do it. This isn't because, you know, but I also at the same time couldn't keep burning money. I couldn't run a fool's errand, right? A big part of our future success with Loyal was changing venues. I loved USD. I loved the intimate feel of it. There wasn't a bad seat in the house, but I could have sold out every single match there and I was still losing money. The USL is built off of ticket sales, right? There's no big TV contract where you're absorbing a bunch of money from that. So you have to be selling tickets. And at a 6,000 seat venue, to operate the club the way that we wanted to operate, we couldn't do that. So we had to get into Snapdragon. We were moments away from signing that contract of getting it done. We had all the content shot. We had our players footage. We had the virtual venue with Ticketmaster all drawn up so our fans could go look and see like where they could pick out seats.
Mm-hmm.
And no team in the USL has jumped from 6 to what at the lower bowl at Snapdragon would have been 19,000. Nobody's ever done that.
Yeah.
And we didn't expect to do that. We wanted to go from 6 to 8 to 10 to 12, you know, to 15, and then hopefully we get to 19, which nobody's doing in the USL, but that was the projection that we were trying to get to. And then once they called and said, sorry, that's not happening, and pulled the deal apart, that's when we really started to have to figure out, like, what do we do? You know, we can't stay at USD. And when we couldn't find land to do temporary facilities somewhere, then it became very clear. You know.
Now, I think the memory of Loyal will forever linger. Mm-hmm. You guys really set the bar in terms of community impact and engagement. Mm-hmm. I am remembering the comment you made about San Diego FC. Obviously, different scenario right now, just because they haven't started officially. But in lieu of that, the hype that you have to generate involves going into the community and building those relationships. Mm-hmm. When you say they fumbled a little bit, I imagine even if they did things well, it really can't compare to the community engagement that you guys did. And I wonder what happens to all of those initiatives and what have they... I know the impact is definitely lasting, but what happened to all of those initiatives that you guys did during the time with Loyal?
Yeah, I'm proud to say that some of them live on. Shannon McMillan, who was the head of our community relationships, took the job that she had with us and parlayed it into the same position with the Wave, and she has literally taken over at least 2 that I can think of right away, and one that I was very, very proud of. We have Junior Achievement here in San Diego. I don't know if you know about their program. They help show kids that, yes, the classroom is important, but there are ways to make a living, and this is how you can run a job and be a part of society and blah, 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 blah. They teach kids how to balance a book and how to shop, and do groceries and do all these kinds of things, how to run a business. And we had the first ever sports team in their facility here in San Diego. So kids could learn that, hey, maybe it's not soccer or playing soccer that's the path for you, but it's the business side of soccer. So when we closed Loyal, I was really disappointed. I'm like, man, I was proud of what that was doing, and now she's taken that over, and now it's the Waves spot in their junior achievement facility. So that's definitely taking place. The other thing people have said to me, and this isn't the question you asked, but it's going to parlay into what you asked. Do you want to see San Diego FC be successful? And my answer to that is I want to see the people that I love and care about who worked for me, who are now over there, be successful. And I know Ricardo, Travis, that team, the storytelling that they're going to do will be an extension and a carry on of everything that we were doing with Loyal. So I know, given the opportunity, and that's the big question mark, right? I don't know the direction of the ownership group there and what they want to do. But there are people in place that know how to hit the community notes if they want to do that. And then I've always said to people, and thank you for everything you said about what we did for the community. They have all the money in the world, literally all the money in the world. They should do every community thing that we're doing 10 times better. There should be more money behind it. Players should be at more events. There isn't a reason why you can't, right? I've said a USL Championship bar a USL Championship club set the bar very, very high for an MLS club, that they now need to go above that as far as community is involved. And I don't know if I should say this, but I think it was a foolish move not to find a way to make everything work together, because in my opinion, they're having an uphill battle garnering some of that hardcore supporter group that was with us.
Absolutely.
Because they feel burned, right? And they want to see, how are you going to rectify that? What are you going to do, to honor what was here and what we loved, and they feel a little burn and rub. And I don't understand why they couldn't have been smarter about how they've handled things.
That's super tough. That's a super tough situation. I think even on the surface level, just naming it San Diego FC for me was an eye roll, because I thought Loyal and all of the things that Loyal embodied in its 4 seasons was so emblematic of the attitude that this community has and just the entire personality of the community of San Diego. But having experienced MLS All-Star, MLS Cup a couple times, I feel like there's just kind of this corporate washing and gloss that goes over that sort of thing. And I've long held the opinion that MLS is also trying way too hard to be a world-class league when I don't think it's ready yet.
Yeah.
The fact that Messi is playing in the league is still insane to me, and it's been a year. And I appreciate that he's willing to come here and do that. But I'm also thinking of times where he has to go play at Yankee Stadium.
Right.
At a baseball stadium.
But that's and I don't want to sound like I'm loving them up too much, but that's where I think SDFC is positioned in such a unique opportunity, because what they like to talk about is right to dream. And what right to dream's model is you play young kids and you grow with them. If you look at the club that they have in Denmark, they have the youngest roster in all of Europe, and they're pretty successful out there. If they could change that model, right? They're building the first ever real academy, kind of European style academy. No other MLS team is really doing that. Can they prove that youth can fuel a good team? When I talk to people who don't know really anything about soccer, one of the things I try to tell them is, it goes to what you just said. What is MLS trying to be, right? Are you trying to be the EPL? Or, in my opinion, should you try to be what the Brazilian league is? What some of these other leagues are, the best feeder leagues into Europe, right? The best players in Brazil, they don't play in Brazil. They start their careers there, and they use that as launching stones into other bigger things. Now, kids are being seen sooner and going to academies at younger ages, blah, 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 blah. But that's where, in my opinion, MLS should find its footing. The problem is that's not the mentality of the U.S. Sports fan, right? The NBA is the best league in the world. Major League Baseball, best league in the world. That's the expectation. And I don't know if that should be the reality for U.S. soccer in this country.
Right.
Because I think the knock, if you look at it, is people go retirement league. Yeah, Messi's here. Yeah, Marco Reus just signed.
Olivier Giroud.
Right.
Random.
Right.
So random.
Right.
Which, I mean...
and it's great. It sells tickets.
Yeah.
But then look what happened in that Leagues Cup game when Messi didn't play.
Right.
Right. Or I saw that there was that clip in the first season that he played where he got injured, and then the stadium just emptied out because he was no longer in the stadium. So what are we selling? Are we selling Messi, or are we selling a soccer product? And I that's where I thought the USL Championship has a really chance to distinguish itself. You have an opportunity. They always said to us, we have to be different. We can't be a carbon copy of MLS, especially when they broke free from MLS 2 teams being involved in the league. Okay, so what are we going to do that's different? Because so far, I don't see anything that's different. We play in 2 conferences, we have a playoff championship, and that's it.
Mhm.
And right at the end, as we were kind of wrapping things up, you hear the conversations about promotion, relegation, blah, blah, blah. If the USL Championship really wants, or the USL as a whole, in my opinion, really wants to stick around and fight against MLS Next Pro and find its footing and really take it on, you have to find a way to start promotion relegation in a meaningful way, right?
Yes.
It's really easy to say like, oh yeah, teams goes up, teams goes down.
I was going to say, people tweet that part.
Yeah. When you study the model and you see how it works, like the USL Championship at the moment can't get a big enough sponsor to hand out a check to its championship winner at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Yet you're going to have teams promote up or relegate down and have to build stadium, have to do things like, right, when teams promote or get relegated out of the EPL, they get balloon payments down to help subsidize some of the things they're doing. When they come up, they get some of that TV money so they can get their stadiums ready and stuff like that. None of that structure is in place. And until some of that minutia is worked out, you can't start it. But if you're going to try to compete, you got to do something different at some point. And MLS, in my opinion, will never go there. They'll never go there because valuations go right down the minute you do promotion relegation, right? Mm-hmm. Why are 4 or 5 MLS clubs ranked in the top 20, most richest clubs or richest sports teams in the world, right? LA Galaxy is worth, or LA FC is worth $1 billion right now. It's because the system is closed. It's why they wanted to start the Super League in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. So that Real Madrid and Juventus, they could have a closed system so valuations on the brands could go up. If MLS went the other direction and started promotion relegation, all those values go down. Right?
I agree. No, I wholeheartedly agree. And I worry about the league all the time. Again, as someone who's traveling for soccer. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people ask, are you just doing MLS teams? And I thought, no, because I would have really nothing to do for a lot of the year. There's so much, obviously several divisions of USL, but even on the women's side and all of the Super League that was just created, there's entirely too much soccer, which is, I guess, a complaint, but I don't mean it to be. I'm just excited about all the opportunities for me personally, but very worried about MLS, I think, from a branding perspective with all of that in mind. So I completely agree with you. I have a couple more questions. Well, I have one question, then we'll get into the book. Emotions aside, logistically, which was harder, starting the club or ending it?
Ending it. I mean, we use the term a lot. We were building the plane while we were flying it at the beginning. Like I told you, October of 2019, kickoff in March of 2020 to build the brand. Like we didn't have a logo, we didn't have a name. We looked at SDFC. We want like that somebody owned the rights to that name at that time. Like we had a very, very short window to launch the club, and that was very chaotic. Luckily, we had people in place who kind of had been there before and knew what they were doing. But there was. I'm a very emotional person, and I think I thought a lot about what I was taking away from people, right? I was taking jobs away from people. I was taking, even from myself, I was taking community away from people. How many people would find me walking around the stadium and go, Andrew, I get to spend time with my son here every Saturday because of you. I get to spend time with, emotional. My own family, we all live here in Point Loma, like 10 minutes from one another. We're very close, so we get to see each other a lot. But I knew on every Saturday when we had a game, I was going to see 15 of my family members, my cousins, my little nephews and nieces and everybody running around. And that I took that away from people. That was hard. That was a lot harder than starting the club, because you could say to people at the beginning, like if we made a mistake, hey, we're trying, we're doing our best. Like,
we'll get it better next time.
Like we're working, we're whereas the other side was it's over. And then, I think you said putting my own emotions aside, which is very difficult.
You're right.
I watched it slip through my fingers, right? Like you said, did you know it was coming? Yeah, I knew it was coming. And at a time I thought I could keep it away. And then I saw I couldn't keep it away. And then I thought, you go through the stages, right? Oh no, it's not going to happen. Oh, we'll find a way to make this work. Oh, we're not going to find, and so to lose the grip on things was hard, but being honest was important because once we made the decision, there was peace. right? I could tell people, hey, we've got, I forget what it was, like 6 games left. Let's go have fun.
Yeah.
We know what it is. We were going to make the playoffs. So we felt good about that. We weren't worried about, playoff security or anything like that. So it was, we're going to have a great time together. We're going to have a hell of a time together, and it was hard to get there sometimes. I told you I would take fans onto the field and stuff. I had another ritual. Once the players and teams had left to go back to the locker room, I always did 1 lap in front of the supporters group, touched a goal, talked to my dad for a second, and then walked back out of there. And that got harder every time, 2 more times, one more time,
Yeah.
Spending a little extra time with the supporters the last time I did it, but it was also important to do those things,
Yeah. Well, and I wish that Loyal would have made it farther through the playoffs.
Yeah.
Storybook endings don't exist anywhere, honestly, outside of Disney. They aren't guaranteed anywhere outside of Disney. I was going to say, right now, I'm solo traveling everywhere. I've done Knott's Berry Farm solo.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah.
Some people can't do it, but I enjoy people watching. Yeah. I just enjoy the freedom of it.
Mm-hmm.
I love airports on my own.
Well, what I love about it, obviously, this being as small as it is and not having like built-in AC or like a place to shower or really do any business forces me to get out and about. It forces me to connect with people, which I really, really love. But at the same time, I can come and go as I please.
Yeah.
And especially at a place like Disney, I'm thinking, I get to stand in line for the ride I want. I'm not like, okay, last ride of the night, where do you want to go? And it's not the coaster I want to do. My sister's agreeable. People that I've gone with have been agreeable. But okay, storybook. I saw you mention this on Twitter, the Loyal Legacy. Yeah. And I love that this exists, by the way. And that you're giving it to people for the cost of shipping and handling.
Yeah. Well, not anymore because they're gone.
True. Well, it's mine. Wait, is this mine or did you?
No, it's yours. Yeah, it's yours.
Thank you. Okay. Talk about the process and the motivation for creating this book.
Yeah. So I don't know if you saw the Glory magazine that was done on San Diego Loyal, or if you know anything about Glory.
I didn't.
I knew nothing about them myself.
Yeah.
So Travis Lamprecht, who is our head of marketing, he had connected with this magazine out of the UK called Glory Magazine. The 4 or 5 or 6 gentlemen that work there, it's all their second hobby. Like they all have day jobs, but they have a passion for soccer, travel, and culture, and that's what the magazine is about. And they go and profile either a club or a country or something, and they do, I think it's a quarterly magazine. Beautiful pictures, long form publication stuff. And Travis said, would you be interested in them coming and doing a piece on us? I said, absolutely. I would love that. Mm-hmm. So they came to San Diego. They were here for 2 weeks. They were around everybody from, soccer side to front office side. And at the end of the 2 weeks, I was the last interview that they did. And sat down, we did the interview, and we just had such a wonderful time. And they just spoke so glowingly of the club. And there were a couple of these moments towards the end. I could see the writing on the wall of what was going to happen, but I had not made the decision yet, and I wasn't comfortable talking to them about it. Mm-hmm. So we talked as if the club was still going to be around and this and that. And at the end, they're like, Andrew, we can't wait to come back. We can't wait to do more. We can't wait. And I'm like, inside, I'm like,
stop.
Yeah. And on the outside, you're playing it straight. Like, I can't wait. Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
But I knew kind of where we were headed. So once the decision was made, first thing I did was reach out to them and apologize and say, I hope you guys, because kind of the magazine came out like right before the decision was made. And I wanted to let them know, like, I wasn't trying to hide anything from you. I just wasn't ready to talk about it. And I hope you didn't think we were keeping information from you. So I apologized about that. But then I said to them, like, I loved it. What they did was so unique and fun for our fans and just was such an encapsulation of what we were trying to do here in San Diego, that I said, now that this is going to be over, I want to do something for our fans. I want more. So what this is everything you get in the magazine, which a lot of our fans have picked up. Plus, I never got the exact number, but at least I think it's 150 more pages of information. And it is literally everything we did. You want to know how many yellow cards Grant Stoneman accumulated over his 4 years?
I do.
It's all in there. What I really enjoyed doing. So the book starts with the magazine. After you get through all of that, you get to the new content. And the new content really starts with like a preview and an outline of every season. And I got to sit down with the Glory guys again and tell them, this is what I think the season was going to be. This is what it ended up being. And this is how I felt about it by the end of the year and how we look back on it. I love this, what you just turned to.
Yeah.
The Loyal Songbook, every chant by our two biggest supporters groups are now there for everybody to remember. So we go through each and every season. In each season, we then highlighted what we thought were the 4 or 5 most important games. That doesn't mean they always win. It always wins. So that's the start of 2020. We have the 5-0 loss to LA Galaxy in there. There's a reason why that game is in there and was important to me. What I also love is you'll find QR codes throughout the book that will allow you to see certain things, like, unfortunately, the video we were talking about, my farewell. I got to write a final little thank you at the end of the book here. I'm kind of bouncing around, but the QR codes allow you to see some of the jersey launch videos. Like every jersey is in here. So it's a beautiful way to look back and reflect on everything that the club did. And then just by happenstance, the lead statistician for Formula One, his name is Sean Kelly. He met one of our employees at a social gathering. He became friends of myself and the club, and he ended up doing stat packets for all our games. So send them off to ESPN so the crews, if it wasn't our own crew, could know all the stats on the team, blah, blah, blah. So I had him work on laying out kind of all the unique stats, all the fun things. You can see which players played the most minutes for us, all that kind of stuff, and some cool little graphs back there. And then after that, are some incredible pieces from employees, from players, testaments about their time with the club. Ben Nichols, I think is his last name, wrote a beautiful piece. Javi, I think, wrote a little something in here as well. Our captain for the entire time, Charlie Adams, wrote a piece. And you just get to hear more insight on what we're doing and how we tried to do it. And then, like I said, it finishes with a little thank you from me to everybody. And then the idea was, we put out a lot of jerseys. We had a lot of fun with Charlie, and people bought a lot of jerseys, and they bought a lot of other things, and they bought season tickets, and they bought, and they bought, and they bought, and there was no reason they were going to buy this book. If I could have found a way to make the shipping free, we would have done that. But there is something I'm going to do. I told our fan base, if we get rid of all the books that were out there at the distribution warehouse, I would make a donation in our community equal to whatever the total shipping cost is. So I don't know what that number is. We'll do the math on that. And then we're going to do something here in our community to, again, show people like, this wasn't about me making a buck, even though I wouldn't see any of that shipping money anyways. This was about me saying thank you to you and providing you with something special. And then I also feel like, and I don't know how people are going to get their hands on it because there's no more copies left, but if you wanted to know how to start a club, if you wanted to know how to touch a community in the right way, pick up the book. This is a playbook on how to do everything the right way. We didn't cut corners. We didn't try to shortchange anybody. Like I said, we were always honest with people, and that's what came through in the work that we did.
Now, beyond what you've already mentioned, because there were a lot of really great momentous occasions that you said are in this book, what was one thing that you really wanted to memorialize in here?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's not a singular thing. It's something actually I tried to express to people at the end. You may not remember every game, and you have an opportunity to find them if you need to find that. You may not remember every player, right? You may not, when doing this book, I flip-flopped 2 US Open Cup games. I had one in one location in the wrong place and one in another location. So we may not remember that. But what I hope is the lasting memory is how we made people feel. Yeah. And when you read the stories, when you touch back into the books, that to me is the recurring memory and feeling that you get. You see the pictures, you see the scores and stuff like that, which is great. But then you go, oh man, that felt good. And as I see people, as they've picked up the book and I've talked to them about it, or they've put something on Twitter, it's always been something like that. Of like, the memories are flooding back. And that's what I was hoping for is, how did we make you feel? Right?
Yeah. Now, how do you engage with soccer and with the San Diego community now?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question for me, right? Like, I'm not going anywhere. That's fact,
This
right?
is your home.
Yeah. I'm raising my children
You're
here.
taking over Point Loma.
Yeah. We have, the Vassiliadis Family Foundation, which does tremendous work in our community. A lot of that has always been focused on the sciences, the arts, stuff that my mom was really passionate about.
Mhm.
My sister and I are kind of now taking that over a little bit. We're helping sponsoring the Wave golf tournament that they have coming up on Monday. But so we will continue to work through our community, through the foundation. We just started a new program with Rady Children's Hospital because they were so good to me with the club. I wanted to return the favor and do something with them. Very excited about that. The zoo has some really, really cool projects coming up that I'm looking to get involved with. Bringing back the pandas was really cool, and I'm excited about that.
I was like, China, you don't have to do diplomacy in any other way.
Yeah,
bring the freaking pandas back. Please.
So I am starting to do that. I've also told a lot of people, like, for 4.5 years, I said to you at the beginning, we got married November of 2019, right? October to March is when we launched the club. I get married in between that. And from that entire moment until the moment we shut the club, my wife allowed the club to be the first thing in my life, and she took care of everything else. Right as the club was ending, we got pregnant with our second child. And it was just an easy light bulb of me of like, this is your opportunity to help and return the favor. Club's going to go away. You now have time to refocus yourself, figure out what's next, but more importantly, to help the person who put herself second, while you were putting the club first.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to really focus on that, but that doesn't mean that the itch isn't there of like, what do I do? What is next? And then I really fell in love with the community of soccer people that are here in San Diego. So like, how do I stay involved? Chavos, the supporters group, they have a backpack drive right before school starts every year. So I made sure, even the club's away, I'm going to continue to donate to that backpack drive to make sure those kids still have backpacks and that Chavos remembers our relationship. But I didn't think there would be an opportunity to work in soccer again. Over the last few months, that has changed. And I'm not ready to announce it. Is Loyal coming back? No, that's not what it is. But I thought my journey in soccer was over. It's definitely not with SDFC, so let's get that out of the way too.
Of course, yeah. Well, at the very least, I assume it's going to be coaching two little ones at some point.
Yeah, but more in a professional manner.
Yeah.
I wish I could talk about it a little bit more openly now, but when the time is right, people will hear about it, and I'm very excited.
Well, I am excited for you, and I really anticipate this conversation is going to be a nice platform or foundation upon which my followers and my community will then be interested in what you've got going on. So,
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Whenever it's announced and whatever.
Oh, you'll hear about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I really, really, really appreciate the time you took to speak to me.
Oh.
I'm so appreciative of this book.
Yes.
It is going to be a prized possession of mine. Honestly, it's heavy.
It's hefty. Yeah.
It'll keep a few things.
Might slow you down a little bit. I don't know.
I don't know. I think it'll be perfect to keep some things in place, at least on my desk as I make my way around the Teslas of California.
And I'd love to hear your thoughts, once you've had a chance.
Of course. Yeah.
To check it out.
No, I'm so excited. And I think in lieu of me being able to participate in person and with the team, I think this is the next best thing.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for taking the time.
If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like it, share it, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, BTWN Clean Sheets, and stay tuned for more. Thanks, guys.